Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and Marjorie Taylor Greene just wrecks Jasmine Crockett's entire day and exposes her in front of this entire committee. Let's dive in.
They're here attacking nonprofits that deliver food to seniors and disabled folk, provide childcare and elder care for working families, job training for teens, and shelter for the unhoused. The Republicans and their witnesses have accused nonprofits of being, quote, radical and, quote, addicted to government money. And listen, I try to find agreement where I can. So I am going to say that I absolutely do agree with that statement to a certain extent, because there is a nonprofit by the name of the Heritage Foundation. And last time I checked, the Heritage Foundation, they are the authors of Project 2025. And we are living through the hell of Project 2025 right now. And something tells me that that's a bit of a partisan thing, because they said it was the conservative playbook. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know why we would ever look at the Heritage Foundation and think that it's anything but radical and, quote, addicted to government money potentially.
The gentlelady yields, and for the record, the Heritage Foundation receives no federal funding. As we've heard here today, the American taxpayer dollars are being laundered through the revolving door of NGOs and Democrat officials. These pay-to-play schemes are so deep-rooted in the system and are such well-oiled machines, and they must be dismantled immediately. To be clear, we support charitable NGOs that help Americans in times of need, such as during the aftermath of wildfires in California and the hurricane in western North Carolina, Georgia, and eastern Tennessee. We do not support politically connected NGOs who rake in billions of federal tax dollars to serve the Democrat Party and their friends and their priorities. We do not support Democrat officials creating slush funds, writing grants and contracts, and deciding who those funds go to, and then going to work at the same NGO that it just awarded those funds to. Yeah, that's not normal. That is the reality of what we are facing and what we face for the past 4 years. As our witnesses stated, these corrupt NGOs do not serve the American people. They serve big government and the Democrat Party. If the American people support their climate and other woke causes, they can choose to personally donate to these entities. They can pay for it themselves. The American people are the most generous people in the entire world. In 2023 alone, Americans privately donated over $557 billion of their own money. They should be the ones who decide where their money goes. They can choose if they want to donate to a nonprofit and which nonprofit. The American people are not just generous with their money, but they're generous with their time as well. In 2023, nearly 76 million Americans, almost 30% of Americans, formally volunteered through an organization. The government didn't make them do this. They did it on their own. The government didn't hold a gun to their head and make them volunteer. The government did not hold a gun to their head and make them donate their own money. They did it on their own. However, the government is forcing them to pay for things that they don't support and they don't want happening. The United States is $36 trillion in debt. In 2024, the government spent over $1.8 trillion more than it took it in. And in 2025, the interest on our debt is expected to exceed $1 trillion. Our government is broke. Our government is going bankrupt. Our government is not a charity for the left to use to launder money through to their friends and to former government employees. Notice this. This is extremely important. There's a difference of what you heard on this committee today. Our Democrat colleagues believe taking money from the American people and forcing them to support the causes that they support is the right thing to do. They don't believe in the mission of this subcommittee, which is DOGE, which is delivering on government efficiency. And that is a mission that has been created in this administration, thankfully to President Trump, and it is a mission that we are continuing here on this subcommittee on oversight, and we're proud of it. And we will continue our work here on the DOGE subcommittee, no matter how much pitching of tantrums that we hear from our Democrat colleagues.
Well spoken, Marjorie. And the difference between Republicans with money and Democrats with money is that Democrats will look at your tax dollars and say, where can I spend this money? Republicans will look at your tax dollars and say, how should I spend this money? There's a subtle but important difference because the Democrats will look at something and say, I've got to spend it. Republicans will ask, should I spend it? And the reality is, when you're asking that question, you should be asking, what kind of things should our government support? Well, naturally, the military, justice system, some infrastructure projects, ensuring that monopolies don't exist. That's inherent to Adam Smith. After that, everything becomes quite the debate. And the Democrats want to expand the state as much as they can because they feel that's how they help people. And I'm giving them a lot of leeway here, but they earnestly believe that that's going to work. They love quoting how Europe works compared to America. But they never remember why Europe works compared to America. The moment we got the opportunity to have our own houses and build the suburbs, we took it. Europe really didn't go after the suburban model. They remained very urban. And even if you live in a rural town, you still have people close-knit together because they're living right next to their stores and their shops, and it's easy for them to transport themselves. They don't need a vehicle. Now, why am I getting on the weeds about that? Because the Americans' ability to drive and drive great distances is the very reason for our economic strength compared to Europe. Europe doesn't have that. Okay, remember, European nations are smaller by definition, and they can afford their, or at least they used to be able to afford their social programs because people didn't need the extra expense of a car in order to have a higher economic output. That's been this weird both handicap and force multiplier. And so those ideals don't work here in the United States. They can work in certain areas. They've made it work in places like Vermont, Minnesota, parts of Wisconsin, where they have more either Nordic people or a longer standing tradition and a higher trust society. But that isn't the rest of the United States. We're an incredibly unique nation. But along with being an incredibly unique nation, since we love the idea of making so much money, we love the idea of giving a lot of that money back. Even Democrats, who are a little bit more stingy by definition, will give a ton of money to charities. And granted, their charities are different from Republican charities. Republican charities tend to be more religious-based. Democrat charities tend to be more secular. But listen to this. This is something that is as tale as old as time, but it bears repeating again. Using voting and IRS data for the residents of 3,000 counties across the nation, the four-professor research team found, according to the New York Times, that counties are overwhelmingly Republican report higher charitable contributions in Democrat-dominated counties, although giving in blue counties is often bolstered by a combination of charitable donations and higher tax. See that right there, that last little line about higher taxes, considering that as charity, Never consider your tax dollars as charity, or else government officials will start treating you as even more of a piggy bank. Because if they're relying on the goodwill, they'll weaponize your own patriotism against you. And that's kind of already happened in the Democrat Party, because the only ways they can show their patriotism is by either waving a Ukrainian flag saying, yes, we can send you a whole lot of money so you can send your soldiers to be a meat grinder against Russia. What a ghoulish war. Or by importing 20 million illegal immigrants in 4 years, all because America really can, deep down, handles what a sudden influence, a sudden influx. The Democrat Party's patriotism is more subtle, but more weaponized against them, using their own shame in order to say that, hey, your country is secretly great, but you can't say it. Meanwhile, the more ridiculous part of this entire video is indeed Jasmine Crockett's original screed. Talking about Heritage Foundation. That was a terrible accent. I am never trying that again. But talking about the Heritage Foundation, which Marjorie Taylor Greene points out doesn't receive federal dollars, is just a nod to the alleged boogeyman of the left and, Project 2025, a project that basically says, hey, we really need to slim down the government and make sure that the swamp gets drained, all because we've had these lifelong bureaucrats that refuse to update and upgrade and, try to innovate anywhere. What a terrible set of ideas. The Democrats have been trying to make things into a boogeyman, and instead they've created one, and it's turned around and it's taken a look underneath the rock and found even more disgusting things beneath it. We have seen in USAID being weaponized against the rest of the world as this weird soft power projection, and it turns out that it kickbacks a whole lot of pro-Democrat groups. Funny what Doge keeps on uncovering here. It's almost as if the very charities Democrats love talking about are the ones that give them a lot of money, power, and influence. Kind of odd how this world works, but we've seen it time and time again, over and over and over, that the Democrat Party cares more about getting these weird kickbacks from 501c3 charities instead of Republicans who just want to give money, even if it's to their own churches, because they feel like it's a good thing to do. Note the motives of the two, and then you'll find out where people's hearts really and truly lie. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.